Resourced is a virtual reality documentary about people who work on the front lines of the class war to alleviate the effects of systemic precarity. Virtual reality is purported by some proponents to inspire empathy in its users, and this claim is perhaps the main selling point of VR within the documentary genre. Filmmakers wielding 360-degree cameras aren't just framing their subject and story, but positioning the viewer at a point within the documentary's world. Indeed, framing is the crucial adjustment that filmmakers must make when working in VR. The question becomes less one of where the camera is pointed, than one of where it is positioned within the subject environment. But the shift the medium demands can be deceptive. VR does not remove the frame and its function of editing and curation, but expands it beyond the two-dimensional screen, stretching the borders of the frame into the third dimension, where the frame collapses into the singularity of the camera's position within the 360-degree video or virtual space. At first glance, then, the novelty of the medium hides the frame and its retinue of biases, decisions, and allegiances, creating the effect of unmitigated presence, placing at a further remove the instrumentalization of content and imagery rendered in this decades-old emerging technology through such framing devices. VR's content holds out the old promise of something approaching the capture of total presence, a digital dream of a reality that feels more real than real.
Let's talk about virtual reality. It's a very experiential medium. You feel your way inside of it. It's a machine, but inside of it, it feels like real life. It feels like truth. And you feel present in the world that you're inside, and you feel present with the people that you're inside of it with.
Such a promise finds historical resonance in the probably fictional account of an early screening of the Lumiere brothers' film, Arrival of a Train at La Ciotat, which, according to legend, caused the audience to flee in panic from the projected image of an approaching train. The persistence of this probable myth contrasts tellingly with the accounts of contemporary advocates for VR's ability to provoke effective outpouring and, in short, to produce empathy. These stories underscore a will to believe in the combined power of art and technology to offer us the real in a more powerful dose. As we emerged from our cultural adolescence in relationship to cinema, to put it charitably, we became more media literate. Gradually, audiences discover the frame and anticipate the world behind the artifice, the workers, machines, the ideologies and politics that support the technology. As the cult of the new surrounding this fourth generation of VR proffers this old promise, it seems only wise to skip the growing pains and take history for a tutor. Nonetheless, this project begins life as the fruit of another romance with technology, namely with those of recording and mass digital dissemination. The very vivid and harrowing accounts we heard from friends and loved ones doing frontline work had to us an obvious force. Sound documentary of people telling their own stories seemed an obvious way to bring to a listening audience the intimate and lived impacts of abstract budget cuts, ideological policies, and systemic violences. However, in a media context where data journalism converts human lives into impossible-to-fathom statistics, in which shocking imagery slips into disaster porn and political spin doctoring, it was easy to anticipate the nullifying effect of the feed and the platform on the simple power of a story and a voice. We wondered if empathy exhaustion and image overload might be meaningfully mitigated by the engagement proffered by an emergent technology. We have, therefore, chosen in our documentary to put VR to work with a mindful embrace of the frame and its socio-political scaffolding, placing as a figure at its center the oldest of technologies, and in a cultural sense perhaps our first, human narrative. People, in this case it should not go without saying all women, giving account of the care work they do and the people they do it for. We wish to shift the emphasis from the empathy-producing promise of technology and art back to its ultimate origin, between people. We are the empathy machines, whose days are marked by an ambivalent oscillation between, on the one hand, shutting down our painful sensitization to the ambient anxiety of ceaseless global emergency, trauma, and tragedy, and on the other, of cultivating often fragile human connections, the better to nourish and grow community and solidarity.